Hello friend, welcome back to Seed and Sparrow Homestead. Today we're going to be spending some time together out in the garden. It is a beautiful day. It was not supposed to be. It was supposed to be rainy and cloudy all day long. But the sun is shining. It's 73 degrees, so I'm altering my plans. It was going to be inside because of the weather, but since the weather is now nice, we're going to go outside. We're going to get some stuff done in the garden, and I want to show you the first thing we're going to work on, and that is planting some of the potatoes that I had saved from my last crop. Check these guys out. Here are my alien potatoes. Obviously they have long since sprouted, which is totally fine. I've planted them this way before. They're just a little bit crazier than they usually are, so I have to go through here and try and untangle this mess. But check out this one. Let me find it over here. You see that? Right in here? That is a little teeny tiny potato that is already forming. Little tiny little potato spud. So we got to get these guys in the ground. This is not all of the potatoes I am planting. I am planning on getting like another 40 pounds worth. This is probably about, I don't know, 10 pounds or so in here. So we're gonna head outside and get these guys in the ground. I gotta grab my kiddos. I gotta get them all put together and ready to go outside. So we're gonna work on this. We're gonna take a little look at the garden and do a few other things and just have a nice, peaceful, relaxing day in the garden. Grant, are you ready to go outside?
Yeah!
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Can you open it? All right, kids are safely playing and entertained. I see you over there. So this is the bed I'm gonna plant these potatoes in. I don't really do anything super special when I'm planting my potatoes. Up front, I do have a bed that I'm gonna do entirely roothed out, but when I'm planting in my raised beds, I just bury them about 4 inches deep. I amend all of my beds with a good quality compost.
Ha!
You wanna say hi? Say hi.
Ha!
You see yourself. Yeah, go get her. Go get Sissy. See ya. I just amend my beds with a good quality compost. This year I'm using mushroom soil. But yeah, that's really all I do. I don't even hill my potatoes in the beds. I bury them 4 inches deep and I let them go. So it's worked really well for me, and I just continue to do it that way. I'm experimenting though up front with that root stout, so we'll see what the difference may be, if there is any. So went through here quick and I weeded everything. I'm gonna go grab my potatoes and I'm gonna get them in the ground. So, wouldn't you know it, it's beautiful and sunny when I decide to come out here. And I've been out here for maybe like 10, 15 minutes and it's clouding up again and it looks like it's gonna rain. So I'm gonna try and do these pretty fast before it's raining on us again. So we are not past our last frost date here in the spring yet. I still have about 4 weeks to go. Potatoes will be fine if they are buried underneath the ground. That'll protect them enough. Now these have some pretty long eyes on them, so I'm gonna try my best to get them completely buried, and they'll be fine. They'll grow right back up through the surface. So I may actually cover these with a little bit of straw until all threat of frost has passed us, but I am just gonna put these about every maybe 8 inches or so between them and about 4 inches deep. I'm not much of a rule follower in the garden. I just go by feel and what looks right to me, and it's served me well thus far. But do your own research. This is just what I do. So about 8 inches apart, 4 inches deep. I'm going to lay them all out here so I can see where they all go. I've done it before where I've just started burying them and not laying them out, and then I forget where I put them. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna lay them out, grab my spade and get to work. This year, my goal is to harvest around 200 pounds of potatoes to last us until next harvest season. Last year, I planted 27 pounds of potatoes and I got 150 pounds. So this year, I'm aiming for around 40 pounds or so of potatoes, give or take. And I may have to do that in a few different rounds of planting. I'm trying to get them in as early as possible here so they get going, because the sooner I get them in, the sooner I get to harvest, and then I can always, a succession, plant another round of potatoes. And I might do that in some other beds too, where right now I have cold weather crops, and as I harvest them, I can replant with some more potatoes. Potatoes are a huge part of our diet. We eat them in a whole bunch of different ways, and I preserve them in a whole bunch of ways too. I will link last year's harvest for you, as well as how I preserved those 150 pounds of potatoes I grew last year. So far, the 3 varieties I have is an Adirondack Blue, Red Norland, and a Superior White. That is all I have currently. Those are some that I planted last year, so that's what I'm working with now. I'm gonna purchase some more. I'm not quite sure what varieties I'm going to get just yet. So just currently working with what I've got, but I am gonna purchase probably another 30 to 40 pounds worth in just a short while.
That we need for our chickens.
So much for a nice, peaceful, relaxing afternoon out in the garden. It is very, very windy, and it started to rain again, and the sky is looking very ominous for sure. So we're gonna get cleaned up, and we're gonna go inside and stay dry, and we're gonna resume this another day. Alright, so this weather is much more pleasant. It is 67 degrees today and sunny. It's been 2 days since I planted this potato, so we finally get to come back out and finish what I wanted to do that day. So I have more potatoes to plant and a few bulbs to plant, some tubers, and first matter that I need to take care of is my friend Heather. My cat, she's so attention greedy. Hello. My friend Heather was separating out her peonies, and she brought me some because she's the best ever, and she just dropped them at my doorstep and said, hey, I have some peonies for you. So I need to get them in the ground because they're just sitting in the bucket behind me. So I think I'm going to plant them back here in the perennial space where I have one other peony back here, but Grant, my 2-year-old, decided to step on them accidentally, and he sheared off the top. So I'm not sure anything else is going to happen with them this year. But I have a peony back here. I've got a whole bunch of columbine and yarrow and rose bushes. So I think it will be a nice addition back here. One more, ouch, that hurt. One more peony. So that's what I'm gonna get to working on first, and then we will get to everything else that needs to get done. I think I'm gonna put the peony right in here. I've got a rose bush there. That, I believe, is thyme. And then over here, there's like a little, I don't even know if you can see it, little leftover bits of astilbe. And then there's strawberries in here and stuff too. So I think the peony is gonna go right in front here of this rose bush, and then it kind of mirrors over here. I have a rose bush, and then the peony that I'm not sure will recover is actually in that tomato cage right there. I'm trying to save what is left, and we'll see what happens, but that is what I'm thinking. So I have a little bit of a dilemma in this keyhole garden space. My original intentions for it was to create a permaculture garden space. And my problem is I want to do all of the things, and I don't have enough space to do all of the things. And my heart really lies with an English cottage garden. That is just what my heart is yearning for. But I'm trying to incorporate those two elements together. Still have it be permaculture practices, but with an English garden look. We'll see how that works out. But my plan is to still have, like, I've got my apple tree in there and medicinal and culinary herbs, and try and incorporate other plants that will benefit one another. So we're gonna see how this goes. All right, so now that that's done, I can move on to other things on my list, and these are things I just recently added. So anytime I go to even Walmart or Lowe's, we were just at Lowe's, and I see the racks full of bulbs and perennials and berry plants, like I don't have a whole lot of self-control. And I just feel like I quote unquote need them, and some usually end up coming home with me. So this time I got some gladiolus, and I got some dahlia tubers. I'm not so sure where I'm going with the dahlia tubers yet. And I mean, I've had pretty okay luck with buying things from Lowe's before in bags like this, so we'll see how they do. These are already starting to sprout, so I am confident the gladiolus will do okay, but the dahlia, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm thinking, let me grab the camera and show you where I'm thinking of putting these. All right, so over in this side here, I have a whole bunch of liatris, which gets pretty tall. And I'm thinking I need something else with a good amount of height, like back in this area here. So I'm thinking of putting the gladiolas all in and around the back there in a cluster. That is a forsythia, but I'm not so sure I'm going to be keeping it. We'll see. I do have elecampane back here, which gets pretty large as well, but they don't get super tall. So I'm thinking all in and around back here, I'm going to plant these gladiolus. So that there is the array that I have chosen, if you can really make that out. So I'm just going to go through with my hori and just move the dirt around a little bit where I made those holes with the spade and get these little guys in. Okay, so I'm thinking for the dahlia tubers to put them in like my in-ground no-dig portion in some of these beds that I made. I'm thinking of actually putting the 3 that I have in a cluster here. I do want to incorporate flowers like in and amongst all of the veggies and fruits that I'm growing. Will I regret it? Maybe putting them in here, but I do have to dig them up over the winter anyways and bring them inside. So if I don't like it this year, I can move them somewhere else next year. I don't know if it's gonna pick it up on camera. We'll see. Right in there. Shows promise. There's 3 little sprouts in there starting on that one. This one also has some sprouts. And this one, I think, where did it go? Yeah, there's one itty bitty one right in there. So, promising, maybe we'll get some dahlias off of these in just a few months. So it says 1 per square foot. So I think we're gonna do this. I have to go grab my shovel. So fun fact that I had shared in a previous video, I used to work with a florist for about a year, and I also worked in a greenhouse for another year back, like when I was in college. And those 2 jobs really they strengthened my love of flowers. And it has always been a little dream of mine to maybe one day have a small flower farm and to sell at local markets, that sort of thing. And this year I thought perhaps I might create a roadside stand and sell some. But in reality, I'm not sure I can take on one more thing. So they may just end up being for my own enjoyment and for making arrangements to give to family and friends. Okay, so next on the agenda, I'm getting straw laid in the pathways in between the beds here. I have never worked with straw before, always learning new things. And upon laying it on that potato bed the other day, I realized I really should have been wearing gloves. I had no idea that you could get that many splinters from straw, but Kelsey that night was not so happy picking all of the splinters out of her fingers. So wearing gloves today, getting that laid in here. And previously I would just always use wood chips. But since I'm doing that Ruth Stout bed for potatoes up front, I found a good source for local organic straw that hasn't been sprayed with anything, so no pesticides that are going to harm the plants that I'm growing. So I decided I'm just going to use it in here because I have extra. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just laying it in all the beds, hoping to suppress any little weeds that would come up. I know hay especially, you'll get lots of grass, lots of weeds coming up through. Straw you might get just a little bit, but it shouldn't be too bad. It should just grow like right there in the straw layer itself. But I'm hoping it really suppresses any other weeds that might come up in the topsoil that we laid here. So I'm hoping that I don't regret this. I really like working with wood chips in the walkways, but where we live, we cannot get chip drop. It's not offered here. We're too far remote. And the other places I can get it in and around here, they charge. And I'm trying to just work with what I've got rather than spending extra money on something else. And on top of that, even if I were to get more wood chips, with how small our property is, they only deliver them in large quantities, and we just don't have the space to be storing wood chips. We've done it in the past and they've always just been in the way. So just trying to be resourceful, work with what I've got. So straw is going down in the walkways this year. Next up, I'm getting my onions in the ground. This is how I start my onions every year. This is my third year doing this, and I've had great success in the past. I just densely sow them in one small container, and then I just very gently separate them out as I go to plant them. Onions are really hardy, they can handle this, and it just saves a lot of space under the grow lights. So I just go ahead and I separate them all out. I am planting 3 different types of onions today. I have a Southport white globe, a red, I think it's called Weathersfield, and a red of Florence. That is more of a shallot. So just getting all my onions out here. I think I planted at the end of the day around 80 or 90. We don't eat a ton of onions. It's not something that I actually tolerate very well, but I do like to have them on hand for medicinal purposes, to use in fire cider and also in bone broth. So that is why I am growing them this year, and that should last us until next season. So I just poke little holes in the ground, which really isn't even necessary. You can kind of just do this as you go because they have such small root systems. I just poke the little roots down on in there and gently just firm the soil around them. So if you are new to planting onions, or just perhaps this is something you don't know if you've planted onions before, most commonly you will find onion sets in the store, like these teeny tiny little onion bulbs that you plant. Onions are a biennial. So the first year they are seed to a bulb, and the second year they are bulb to a seed. They go to flower and they produce seed. So by growing from the seed, you'll be sure to have a large bulb develop. If you plant an onion set which you find in the stores, you are using a small bulbs that have been harvested prematurely from the first year of an onion's life cycle and stored throughout the winter. So they've been put into dormancy. Now they will typically yield smaller onions and are more prone to bolt or flower and go to seed because they think they are in their second year of life. So that's just a fun little fact. If you want big onions, it's best to grow from seed. I also got a whole bunch of my cold weather crops into the ground, like 2 different varieties of kale. I think it's the blue Scotch curled kale and a scarlet kale, and then my cabbage and some Brussels sprouts went in as well. Looking at the 10-day forecast right now, we are going to be in the 80s, which is very unlike normal PA spring weather here. We typically have a shorter spring, like it goes from cold to hot really fast, but not this fast. So I'm not sure if all of this planting was done in vain. We shall see. If it is in vain, I always have the fall to try and plant these cold weather crops again. So here I am just getting in a whole bunch of different pea varieties. I have snap peas and shelling peas, and I think I have some blue variety of peas that I planted as well. It's just a blue shell. It's not an actual blue pea itself. Now I'm just prepping some beds for planting carrots, taking my hoe here and getting all of the weeds out. I will go through and I'll pick out the actual roots of the weeds, but I just leave their leaves in there to like compost into the dirt. And I always add 2 things when I'm planting carrots. I add bone meal, which is rich in phosphorus for good, strong root development. A carrot is a root veggie. You're eating the root, so we want big, strong roots. And I always add in sand as well. You want rich, loose soil for carrots so that they don't, if they hit anything that would get in their way, they will fork, or it will just stop them growing down completely. You want really loose soil, so that's why I add in the sand. And here I've got my little buddy helping me. He's such a great garden helper. I try to include the kids as much as I can and start them off young. Hopefully they will develop a love of gardening as well. I had added in sand previously, so I'm just lightly raking in that bone meal here, getting this space ready for the carrots. I've got a whole bunch of different varieties of carrots here, pretty much the rainbow of carrots. And I've tried planting carrots a few different ways, being very precise about where I put them, as well as making the carrot like seed tape, which for how many carrots I plant, it's way too time consuming. So I just typically either just broadcast them, mix them in with some sand and just broadcast them over the space, or just sprinkle them in. And I will have to go back and I'll have to thin them out in places, but I try to not have too many land in the same spot. So I'll go back in with my fingers and I'll just lightly rake them around if I see any too closely planted together. Now, the best way to go about setting up these seeds for germination would be to lightly water them in and then cover them with something like a piece of plywood, some sort of board. That will, number one, protect the soil from drying out too quickly, and it will also protect the seeds from heavy rains if it were to rain, and water always typically pools in areas. It would pull all of the seeds directly to that flooded spot, and you just have this really densely planted area of carrots, which we don't want. Unfortunately, we've been pretty diligent about using up all of our scrap wood, so I didn't have anything to lay over these beds. So here's hoping I don't have them all in one spot. Hello, friend. This is editing Kelsey. I was just putting together this week's video and realized I never signed off, nor did I get any footage where I could sign off. So you get me in all of my comfy, cozy couch glory. But this gives me an opportunity to run something by you that I've been considering doing, and I wanted the feedback of my trusted viewers. So in addition to my Friday video that I've been putting out for the last 6 months, which is typically, cooking, preservation, baking, all, that sort of stuff, I was thinking about doing an additional video each week that would be pretty unedited, pretty laid back, just you and me chatting, and have it be a garden tour every week so that we get to see the progress of the garden, address any concerns, issues that have come up, like pest issues or disease, and how I'm addressing them organically. And a lot of it's for me too. I just want to see the progress of my garden over the weeks and months, and I thought maybe that'd be something that you would enjoy as well. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and drop it down in the comments. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it, but I'd love to hear your feedback just to make sure it is something that you would want to see. And I'm thinking maybe like a Tuesday or Wednesday video for that one. We'll see how it works out with my schedule, but as the garden season picks up, that's something I am looking to do. So other than that, thank you for coming along with me today in the garden. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful, blessed week, and I will see you next time. Take care.